Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Hare Krishna, my dear devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today we're hearing from Canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 6, text number 1.
Yes, yes, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Sukadeva Goswami said, O Maharaja Parikshit, Ambarisha had 3 sons named Virupa, Ketuman, and Sambhu. From Virupa came a son named Prishadasva, and from Prishadasva came a son named Ratitara. Text 2. Ratitara had no sons. Ratitara had no sons, and therefore he requested the great sage Angira to beget sons for him. Because of this request, Angira begot sons in the womb of Ratitara's wife. All these sons were born with brahminical prowess. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Vedic age, a man was sometimes called upon to beget sons in the womb of a lesser man's wife for the sake of better progeny. In such an instance, the woman is compared to an agricultural field. A person possessing an agricultural field may employ another person to produce food grains from it. But because the grains are produced from the land, they are considered the property of the owner of the land. Similarly, a woman was sometimes allowed to be impregnated by someone other than her husband, but the sons born of her would then become her husband's sons. Such sons were called Kshetrajata. Because Ratitara had no sons, he took advantage of this method. Text number 3. Having been born from the womb of Ratitara's wife, all these sons were known as the dynasty of Ratitara, but because they were born from the semen of Angira, they were also known as the dynasty of Angira. Among all the progeny of Ratitara, these sons were the most prominent because, owing to their birth, they were considered brahmanas. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura gives the meaning of Dvijataya as mixed caste, indicating a mixture of Brahmana and Kshatriya. Text number 4. The son of Manu was Ikshvaku. When Manu was sneezing, Ikshvaku was born from Manu's nostrils. King Ikshvaku had 100 sons, of whom Vikukshi, Nimi, and Dandaka were the most prominent. According to Sridhar Swami, although the Bhagavatam 9.1.11-12 has previously included Ikshvaku among the 10 sons begotten by Manu and his wife, Shraddha, this was the generalization. It is here specifically explained that Ikshvaku was born simply from the sneezing of Manu. Wow. The sneezing of Manu. About that. Text 5. Of the 100 sons, 25 became kings in the western side of Aryavarta, a place between the Himalaya and Vindhya mountain. Another 25 sons became kings in the east of Aryavarta, and the three principal sons became kings in the middle. The other sons became kings in various other places. Text number 6. During the months of January, February, and March, oblations offered to the forefathers are called Astaka Shraddha. The Shraddha ceremony is held during the dark fortnight of the month. When Maharaja Ikshvaku was performing his oblations in this ceremony, he ordered his son Vikukshi to go immediately to the forest to bring some pure flesh. Uh-oh. In other words, he's going to kill some animals. Text 7. Thereafter, Ikshvaku's son, Vikukshi, went to the forest and killed many animals suitable for being offered as oblations. But when fatigued and hungry, he became forgetful and ate a rabbit he had killed. Purport. It is evident that the Kshatriyas killed animals in the forest because the flesh of the animals was suitable to be offered at a particular type of yajna. Offering oblations to the forefathers in the ceremony known as Shraddha is also a kind of yajna. In this yajna, flesh obtained from the forest by hunting could be offered. However, in the present age, Kali Yuga, this kind of offering is forbidden. Ah, thanks. Quoting from the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Aswamedam Gaval Lambam Sanyasam Pala Paitrikam Devar Rena Suto Patim Kalo Pancha Vivarjayat. In this age of Kali, 5 acts are forbidden. The offering of a house and sacrifice. I'm sorry. The offering of a horse and sacrifice. The offering of a cow and sacrifice. The acceptance of the order of sannyasa. The offering of oblations of flesh to the forefathers. And a man's begetting children in his brother's womb. The word pala paitrikam refers to an offering of flesh in oblations to forefathers. Formerly, such an offering was allowed, but in this age it is forbidden. In this age, Kali Yuga, everyone is expert in hunting animals, but most of the people are Sudras, not Kshatriyas. According to Vedic injunctions, however, only Kshatriyas are allowed to hunt, whereas Sudras are allowed to eat flesh after offering goats or other insignificant animals before the deity of goddess Kali or similar demigods. On the whole, meat eating is not completely forbidden. A particular class of men is allowed to eat meat according to various circumstances and injunctions. As far as eating beef is concerned, however, it is strictly prohibited to everyone. Thus, the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna personally speaks of Go Rakshyam, Cow protection. Meat eaters, according to their different positions and the directions of the Shastra, are allowed to eat flesh, but never the flesh of cows. Cows must be given all protection. Well, that's pretty emphatic. Very, very important that cows should always be protected. Okay, text number 8. Vikukshi offered the remnants of the flesh to King Ikshvaku, who gave it to Vasista for purification. But Vasista could immediately understand that part of the flesh had already been taken by Vikukshi, and therefore he said that it was unfit to be used in the Shraddha ceremony. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. That which is meant to be offered in yajna cannot be tasted by anyone before being offered to the deity. In our temples, this regulation is in effect. One cannot eat food from the kitchen unless it is offered to the deity. If something is taken before being offered to the deity, the entire preparation is polluted and can no longer be offered. Those engaged in deity worship must know this very well, and so they may be saved from committing offenses in deity worship. Text number 9. When King Ikshvaku, thus informed by Vasista, understood what his son Vikukshi had done, he was extremely angry. Thus he ordered Vikukshi to leave the country because Vikukshi had violated the regulative principles. Okay, 1 second. I have to read much. Make my pencil here sharper. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, that's good. Text number 10. Having, I'm sorry, text number 9. No, text number 10, yeah. Having been instructed by the great and learned Brahmana Vasistha, who discoursed about the absolute truth, Maharaj Ikshvaku became renounced by following the principles for yoga. For a yogi, he certainly achieved the supreme perfection after giving up his material body. Wow. Okay. After giving up his material body. Text 11. After his father's disappearance, Vikukshi returned to the country and thus became the king, ruling the planet Earth and performing various sacrifices to satisfy the Supreme Personality of God. Vikukshi later became celebrated as Sada, no, Sasad, Sasada, Tasada, yeah, Tasada. Text 12. The son of Sasada was Puranjana, who was also known as Indravaha and sometimes Kakutsta. Please hear from me how he received different names for different activities. Text 13. Formerly, there was devastating war between the demigods and the demons. The demigods, having been defeated, accepted Puranjana as their that system, and then conquered the demons. Therefore, this hero is known as Puranjana, he who conquered the residence of the demons. Text 14. Puranjana agreed to kill all the demons on the condition that Indra would be his carrier. Because of pride, Indra could not accept this proposal. But later, by the order of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, Indra did accept it and became a great bull carrier for Puranjana. Text 15 and 16. Well protected by armor and desiring to fight, Puranjana took up a transcendental bow and very sharp arrows. And while being highly praised by the demigods, he got up on the back of the bull, Indra, and sat on his hump. Thus, he is known as Katuksha. Being empowered by Lord Vishnu, who is the super soul and the supreme person, Puranjana sat on the great bull and is therefore known as Indravaha. Surrounded by the demigods, he attacked the residence of the demons in the west. Text 17. There was a fierce battle between the demons and Puranjana. Indeed, it was so fierce that when one hears about it, one's hairs stand on end. Oh, I'm glad I have my hat on. All the demons bold enough to come before Puranjana were immediately sent to the residence of Yamaraja by his arrows. That's a pretty powerful person. Second. Text 18. To save themselves from the blazing arrows of Indravaha, which resembled the flames of devastation at the end of the millennium, the demons who remained when the rest of their army was killed fled very quickly to their respective homes. Text 19. After conquering the enemy, the saintly king Puranjana gave everything, including the enemy's riches and wives, to Indra, who carries a thunderbolt. For this, he is celebrated as Puranjana. Thus, Puranjana is known by different names because of his different activities. Text number 20. 1 second. The son of Puranjana was known as Anena. Anena's son was Prithu, and Prithu's son was Vishwagandhi, and Vishwagandhi's son was Chandra, and Chandra's son was Yuvanasva. Text 21. The son of Yuvanasva was Shravasta, who constructed a township known as Shravasti Puri. The son of Shravasta was Brihadasva, and his son was Kuvalayasva. In this way, the dynasty increased. To satisfy the sage Utanka, the greatly powerful Kuvalayasva killed a demon named Dunduhu. He did this with the assistance of his 21,000 sons. Oh, okay. 21,000 sons. Text 23 and 24. O Maharaj prediction. For this reason, Uvalayasva is celebrated as Dundumara, the killer of Dundu. All but three of his sons, however, were burned to ashes by the fire emanating from Dundu's mouth. The remaining sons were Dridhasva, Kapilasva, and Bhadrasva. From Dridhasva came a son named Haryasva, whose son is celebrated as Nikumba. Text 225. The son of Nikumba was Bahulasva. The son of Bahulasva was Krishasva. The son of Krishasva was Senajit. And the son of Senajit was Yuvanasva. Yuvanasva had no sons, and thus he retired from family life and went to the forest. Text 26. Although Yuvanasva went into the forest with his 100 wives, all of them were very morose. The sages in the forest, however, being very kind to the king, began very carefully and attentively performing an Indra yagya so that the king might have a son. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One may enter the Vanaprastha order of life with his wife, but the Vanaprastha order means complete retirement from household life. Although King Yuvanasva retired from family life, he and his wives were always morose because he had no son. Text 27. Being thirsty one night, the king entered the arena of sacrifice. And when he saw all the brahmanas lying down, he personally drank the sanctified water meant to be drunk by his wife. Purport. Yagyas performed by brahmanas according to Vedic ritualistic ceremonies are so potent that the sanctifying of water by Vedic mantras can bring about the desired result. In this instance, the brahmanas sanctified the water so that the king's wife might drink it in the yajna, but by providence, the king himself went there at night and, being thirsty, drank the water. Text 28. When the brahmanas got up from their bed and saw the water pot empty, they inquired who had done this work of drinking the water meant in begetting a child. Text 29. When the brahmanas came to understand that the king, inspired by the supreme controller, had drunk the water, they all exclaimed, "Alas, the power of providence is real power. No one can counteract the power of the Supreme." In this way, they offered their respectful obeisances unto the Lord. Text number 30. Thereafter, in due course of time, a son with all good symptoms of a powerful king came forth from the lower right side of King Yuvanasva's abdomen. Text 31. The baby cried so much for breast milk that all the brahmanas were very unhappy. Who will take care of this baby? They said. Then Indra, who was worshipped in that yajna, came and solaced the baby. Do not cry, Indra said. Then Indra put his index finger in the baby's mouth and said, You may drink me. Text 32. Because Yuvanasva, the father of the baby, was blessed by the Brahmanas, he did not fall a victim to death. After this incident, he performed severe austerities and achieved perfection in that very spot. Text 33 and 34. Mandata, the son of Yuvanasva, was the cause of fear for Ravana and other thieves and rogues who caused anxiety. O King Parikshit, because they feared him, the son of Yuvanasva, was known as Trasadasyu. This name was given by King Indra. By the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Yuvanasva was so powerful that when he became emperor, he ruled the entire world, consisting of 7 islands, without any second ruler. Text 35 and 36. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is not different from the auspicious aspects of great sacrifices, such as the ingredients of the sacrifice, the chanting of Vedic hymns, the regulative principles, the performer, the priests, the result of the sacrifice, the arena of sacrifice, and the time of sacrifice. Knowing the principles of self-realization, mandata, worship that transcendentally situated Supreme Soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, who comprises all the demigods. He also gave immense charity to the Brahmanas, and thus he performed yajna to worship the Lord. Text 37. All places from where the sun rises on the horizon, shining brilliantly, and where the sun sets, are known as the possession of the celebrated Mandata, the son of Yuvanasva. Text 38. Mandata begot 3 sons in the womb of Bindumati, the daughter of Sasabindu. These sons were Purukutsa, Ambarisha, and Muchakunda, a great mystic yogi. These 3 brothers had 50 sisters, who all accepted the great sage Sobari as their husband. Sobari was meditating in water for many, many years. And when he saw a number of fish having sex, and it broke his meditation. And then he came out of the water with a lot of barnacles on his body. And he didn't look very nice. But then he got the mercy of some brahmanas, and he had a nice body. and he started to have sex, to have children. After so long of meditating in water, Sobari Rishi was engaged in austerity deep in the water of the river Yamuna when he saw a pair of fish engaged in sexual affairs. Thus he perceived the pleasure of sex life, and induced by his desire, he went to King Mandata and begged for one of the king's daughters. In response to this request, the king said, O Brahmana, any of my daughters may accept any husband according to her personal selection. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This is the beginning of the story of Sobari Rishi. According to Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura, Mandata was the king of Mathura, and Sobari Rishi was engaged in austerity while submerged deep within the river Yamuna. When the Rishi felt sexual desire, he emerged from the water and went to King Mandata to ask that one of the king's daughters become his wife. Text 41 and 42. So Bari Muni thought, I am now feeble because of old age. My hair has become gray. My skin is slack, and my head always trembles. Besides, I am a yogi. Therefore, women do not like me. Since the king has thus rejected me, I shall reform my body in such a way as to be desirable even to celestial women, what to speak of the daughters of worldly kings. Text 43. Thereafter, when Sobari Muni became quite a young and beautiful person, the messenger of the palace took him inside the residential quarters of the princesses, which were extremely opulent. All 50 princesses then accepted him as their husband, although he was only one man. Text 44. Thereafter, the princesses, being attracted by Sobari Muni, gave up their sisterly relationship and quarreled among themselves, each one of them contending, this man is just suitable for me and not for you. In this way, there ensued a great disagreement. Text 45 and 46. Because Sobari Muni was expert in chanting mantras perfectly, his severe austerities resulted in an opulent home with garments, ornaments, properly dressed and decorated maidservants and manservants, and varieties of parks with clear water lakes and gardens in the garden and gardens. In the gardens, fragrant and various flowers, birds chirped, and bees hummed, surrounded by professional singers. Sobari Muni's home was amply provided with valuable beds, seats, ornaments, and arrangements for bathing. And there were varieties of sandalwood creams, flower garlands, and palatable dishes, thus surrounded by opulent paraphernalia the Muni engaged in family affairs with his numerous wives. Okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sobari Rishi was a great yogi. Yogic perfection makes available 8 material opulences: Anima, Lagima, Mahima, Prakti, Prakamya, Isitva, Vasitva, and Kama Vasaita. Sobari Muni exhibited, one second, just hold 1 second. Sobari Muni exhibited super excellence in material enjoyment by dint of his yogic perfection. The word Bhav Richa means expert in chanting mantras. As material opulence can be achieved by ordinary material means, it can also be achieved by subtle means through mantras. By chanting mantras, Sabari Muni arranged for the material opulence. But this was not perfection in life. As will be seen, Sobari Muni became very dissatisfied with material opulence and thus left everything and re-entered the forest in Vanaprastha order and achieved final success. Those who are not Atma Tattva Vits, who do not know the spiritual value of life, can be satisfied with external material opulences. But those who are Atma Tattva Vit are not inspired by material opulences. This is the instruction we can derive from the life and activities of Sobari Muni. Mandata, the king of the entire world, consisting of 7 islands, was struck with wonder when he saw the household opulence of Sobari Muni. Thus he gave up his false prestige in his position as emperor of the world. Purport. Everyone is proud of his own possession, but here was an astounding experience in which the emperor of the entire world felt himself defeated in all details of material happiness by the opulence of Sobari Muni. Sobari Muni had meditated in water for a very long time. But then he came out of the water, and because his body was not really very nice, he was blessed by some physicians, and he became very handsome. And then he had many wives. Text 48. In this way, Sobari Muni enjoyed sense gratification in the material world, but he was not at all satisfied. Just as a fire never ceases blazing if constantly supplied with drops of fat. Purport. Material desire is just like a blazing fire. If a fire is continually supplied with drops of fat, the fire will increase more and more and never be extinguished. Therefore, the policy of trying to satisfy material desires by catering to one's material demands will never be successful. In modern civilization, everyone is engaged in economic development, which is another way of constantly dropping fat into the material life. I like the way Paul writes, dropping fat into the material fire. The Western countries have reached the summit of material civilization, but people are still not satisfied. Real satisfaction is Krishna consciousness. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 5:29, where Krishna says, Muktaram yagitapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhidam sarvabhutanam yatpamam santim richati. The sages who knows me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor of and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. One must therefore take to Krishna consciousness and advance in Krishna consciousness by properly following the regulative principles. Then one can attain an eternal, blissful life in peace and knowledge. Okay, very important points. Text 49. Thereafter, one day, while Sobari Muni, who was expert in chanting mantras, was sitting in a secluded place, he thought to himself about the cause of his fall, which was simply that he had associated himself with the sexual affairs of the fish. Yeah, while he was meditating underwater for a long, long time. But then a school of fish who were engaged in sex came by him. He scrambled up to the surface of the water and then left the water and seeked out many wives to have sex. Okay. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that Sobari Muni had fallen from his austerity because of a Vaishnava aparada. Oh, now we know the real knowledge is here, the real purpose. The history of that when Garuda wanted to eat fish, Sobari Muni unnecessarily gave the fish shelter under his care. Because Garuda's plan for eating were disappointed, Sobari Muni certainly committed a great offense to a Vaishnava. Because of this, Vaishnava aparada, an offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, Sobari Muni fell from his exalted position of mystic tapasya. One should not, therefore, impede the activities of a Vaishnava. This is the lesson we must learn from this incident concerning Sobari Muni. Okay, we should never impede the activities of a Vaishnava. This is the lesson we must learn from this incident concerning Sobari Muni. Text 50. The depths of the water, Vardi Chara Prasangat, because of the affairs of the aquatics, Prachavitam, fallen Brahma from the activities of Brahman, realization or austerity, Chiram for a long time, Dhritam executed which, translation. Alasi, while practicing austerity, even within the depths of the water, and while observing all the rules and regulations practiced by saintly persons, I lost the results of my long austerity simply by association with the sexual affairs of fish. Everyone should observe this fall down and learn from it. Yeah, but this is what Sobari Muni is saying, that although he was meditating underwater for a very long time, he saw a school of fish having sex, and it disturbed his mind, and he gave up his tapasya and immediately went and got a whole bunch of women for sex. So here it says, alas, while practicing austerity, even within the depths of the water, and while observing all the rules and regulations practiced by saintly persons, I lost the results of my long austerities simply by association with the sexual affairs of fish, not even with women or humans, into the sexual affairs of fish. Everyone should observe this fall down and learn from it. Yeah, that's a fact. Text 51. A person desiring liberation from material bondage must give up the association of persons interested in sex life and should not employ his senses externally in seeing, hearing, talking, walking, and so on. One should always stay in a secluded place, completely fix his mind at the lotus feet of the unlimited personality of Godhead. And if one wants any association at all, he should associate with persons similarly engaged. Well, that's good advice. Purport. Sobari Muni, giving conclusions derived from his practical experience, instructs us that persons interested in crossing to the other side of the material ocean must give up the association of persons interested in sex life and accumulating money. This is also advised by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This Kinchanasya Bhagavad Vajano Mukshaya Param Param Jiga Misur Bhava Sagarasya Sandarshanam Vishai Inam Ata Yositam Cha Na Hanta Hanta Visha Bhakshanato Pi Asadu Chaitanya Chandrodaya Nataka 8.27. Alas, for a person seriously desiring to cross the material ocean and engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord without material motives, that's the most important thing, without material motives, seeing the materialist engaged in sense gratification, and seeing a woman who is similarly interested is more abominable than drinking poison willingly. Oh my God. So many people have fallen down by seeing men and women having sex. Terrible, terrible thing. One who desires complete freedom from the material bondage can engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. He must not associate with Vishai, materialistic persons, or those interested in sex life. Every materialist is interested in sex. So that doesn't mean all people are interested in sex. It's materialists. Every materialist are interested in sex. Thus, in plain language, it is advised that an exalted saintly person avoid the association of those who are mentally inclined. Yeah, they're always thinking about sex. Srila Narottam Das Thakur also recommends that one engage in the service of the acharyas. And if one wants to live in association, he must live in the association of devotees. Tandera charana sevi bhakta sanivas. Janami, janami, something, I forget the rest of that mantra. Tandera charana sevi bhakta sanivas. The Krishna consciousness movement is creating many centers just to create devotees so that by associating with the members of such a center, people will automatically become uninterested in material affairs. Interesting. Although this is an ambitious proposal, this association is proving effective by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By gradually associating with the members of the Krishna consciousness movement, simply by taking prasada and taking part in chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, ordinary persons are being considerably elevated. So Bari Muni regrets that he had bad association, even in the deepest part of the water. Because of the bad association of the sexually engaged fish, he fell down. A secluded place is also not secure unless there is good association. Wonderful statement. In the beginning, I was alone and engaged in performing the austerities of mystic yoga. But later, because of the association of fish engaged in sex, I desired to marry. Then I became the husband of 50 wives, not one wife, 50 wives. And in each of them I begot 100 sons. Wow, 50 times 100. That's a lot. And thus my family increased to 5,000 members. There it is. By the influence of the modes of material nature, I became fallen and thought that I would be happy in material life. Thus, there is no end to my material desires for enjoyment in this life and the next. That's like a death trap. Text 53. In this way, he passed his life in household affairs for some time. But then he became detached from material enjoyment. To renounce material association, he accepted the Vanaprastha order and went to the forest. His devoted wives followed him, for they had no shelter other than their husband. Text 54. When Sobari Muni, who was quite conversant with himself, went to the forest, he performed severe penances. In this way, in the fire at the time of death, he ultimately engaged himself in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport: at the time of death, fire burns the gross body, and if there is no more desire for material enjoyment, the subtle body is also ended, and in this way, a pure soul remains. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Tyakvadeham punarjanma. Excuse me. Tyakvadeham punarjanma 19. If one is free from bondage of both gross and subtle, gross and subtle material bodies, and remains a pure soul, he returns home back to Godhead to be engaged in the service of the Lord. Chakradeham Punarajan Mananaiti Man. He goes back home, back to Godhead. Thus it appears that Sobari Muni attained that perfect stage. Wow, that's very, very good. Text 55. O Maharaj Parikshit, by observing their husband progressing in spiritual existence, Sobari Muni's wives were also able to enter the spiritual world by his spiritual power, just as the flames of a fire cease when the fire is extinguished. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 9.32, Striyo Vaishyas Tata Sudras Tepiyanti Param Gatim. Women are not considered very powerful in following spiritual principles. But if a woman is fortunate enough to get a suitable husband who is spiritually advanced, and if she always engages in the service, she also gets the same benefits as her husband. That's good knowledge. Here it is clearly said that the wives of Sobari Muni also entered the spiritual world by the influence of their husband. They were unfit, but because they were faithful followers of their husband, they also entered the spiritual world with him. Thus, a woman should be a faithful servant of her husband, and if the husband is spiritually advanced, the woman will automatically get the opportunity to enter the spiritual world. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 6th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Downfall of Sobari Muni. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Okay, it's 7:30 right now, so this is the end of our program for this morning. Are there any questions or comments anyone would like to submit? Question or comment?
So Maharaj, in text 51, in the last few lines,
Yes.
so the utmost importance has been given to the good association in the last 2-3 lines. And the last line says, a secluded place is also not secure unless there is a good association.
So you're reading that in the purport. Right?
Purport, last line, Maharaj. 51.
A secluded place is also not secure unless there is good association. Yes. What do you want to know from that very important statement?
Some more explanation, Maharaj, on good association.
Well, that just shows how important it is to associate with genuine devotees. We're not interested in sex life or money or any type of materialistic culture. They're interested only in Krishna consciousness. And they show their interest in Krishna consciousness by always chanting Hare Krishna and not engaged in any sinful activities. So that means that they are serious about spiritual life. They're not wishy-washy, sometimes chanting around, sometimes not chanting. Sometimes following all the rules and regulations, sometimes breaking some rules and regulations. They're not wishy-washy. They're very, very serious and sober about following the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness. That's why it says here, Nishkinchanasya Bhagavad Bhajan Umukasya Param Param Jiga Mishur Bhava Sagarasya Sandarsanam Vishya Inam Ata Yositam Cha Na Hanta Hanta Visha Bakshanto Pi Asadu Tijanya Chandrodaya Nataka 8:27. Alas, for persons seriously desiring to cross the material ocean and engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord without material motives, seeing a materialist engaged in sense gratification and seeing a woman who is similarly interested is more abominable than drinking poison willingly. There it is. Very important, very emphatic statement. It's more abominable than drinking poison willingly. Well, that's how dangerous illicit sex is. And seeing women, meaning seeing women and meditating on their body and so forth, is more abominable than drinking poison willingly. Drinking poison willingly. Oh my God. So, therefore, one who desires complete freedom from material bondage can engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. He must not associate with Vishai. What is Vishai? Materialistic persons or those interested in sex life. Every materialist is interested in sex. Thus, in plain language, it is advised that an exalted saintly person avoids the association of those who are materially inclined. So it's just materially inclined. Right? It's not only because they're interested in sex. It's the fact that they're materially inclined. And Narottam Das Thakur also recommends that one engage in the service of the Acharya. And if one wants to live in association, he must live in the association of devotees. Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakti Sanivad Janami Janami something Harivilas. It's a very, very powerful mantra, which means that if one wants to live in association, he must live in the association of devotees. Bhakta Sanivas. He must engage in association of the devotees. And the Krishna consciousness movement is creating many centers just to create devotees, so that by associating with the members of such a center, people will automatically become uninterested in material affairs. Although this is an ambitious proposal, this association is proving effective by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Maharaj. By gradually associating with the members of the Krishna consciousness movement, simply by taking prasada and taking part in chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, ordinary persons are being considerably elevated. So Bari Muni regrets that he had bad association, even in the deepest part of the water, because of the bad association with sexually engaged fish. He fell down. A secluded place is also not secure unless there is good association. So that school of fish having sex was bad association. So a secluded place is not secure unless there is good association. So we should only associate with genuine devotees and avoid the association of loose characters.
Hare Krishna. So, Maharaj, so, so if we are associating with like kind of half devotees, like those have their own personal agendas,
Yeah,
so we should avoid those association as well,
yeah.
even though they are following Krishna.
Sometimes they're followed. Sometimes they don't follow. Yeah. Very dangerous to associate with what you would call sometime devotees. We want all-time devotees. Okay. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. I hope I haven't scared you too much today. I'm scared though.
Yeah.
So, are there any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? Okay, no questions. That means there's no comments. So our takeaway for today. Alas, for a person seriously desiring to cross the material ocean and engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord without material motives, seeing a materialist engaged in sense gratification and seeing a woman who is similarly interested is more abominable than drinking poison willingly. That is our takeaway for today.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada.
Krishna Mataji, all glories to Prabhupada. Go right ahead.
Maharaj, first of all, very nice lecture today regarding association and materialistic people. There's a news now about Epstein files. I don't know if you have heard about it, where they're showing all the ex-presidents and the politicians who were associating with him and having all kinds of nonsense. So your class today, I was thinking about that, how one bad association and one big one can even make a big president or big politician fall in the material existence. Would you like to comment on that if possible? Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, well, the association with someone who's a woman hunter and always taking advantage of women is very dangerous. It's the most dangerous thing because not only he's taking advantage of women, but he's also inspiring low-class men to do the same thing. So we see that many big politicians and famous people were going to Jeffrey, what's his name? Let's go.
Jeffrey Epstein Maharaj.
Yeah, Epstein. Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein's. Uh, he had an island, I think, and he would take people on this uh, uh, plane to enjoy sex with children sometimes, not only with adults, sometimes with children, and enjoy sex. And look what happened to him. Eventually, he committed suicide. That's what happens when you engage in uh, exploiting other people for sex and corrupting other people for sex. And eventually, one gets oversexed and gets very frustrated because he has taken advantage of so many people, and then they commit suicide. That means he's a demon, and then that's what demons do. They commit so many sinful activities, eventually they commit suicide.
Hmm.
That's what happened to what was his name? Uh, all these big demons. Eventually, they commit suicide after they're caught and they're completely, you know, trashed by others. They commit suicide, thinking that death means that there's nothing. But no, sir. Death does not stop you from being caught by Yamaraj and suffer terribly for those types of terrible sins that are being committed. Your life does not end by committing suicide. Yeah. In fact, your life becomes much more painful and much more miserable by committing suicide. Rather, if you're a sinful person, you should give up and take shelter of bona fide devotees and stop your sinful activities. But committing suicide will not put you in a position where there's nothing. No. You're going to suffer for all the sins that you've committed, and even more because of committing suicide, which is very, very sinful thing to do. But most of these nonsense people, they commit so much illicit sex and taking advantage of people and so forth, and eventually they commit suicide, thinking that by committing suicide they will be free from any, let's say, consequences. But no, sir, you're going to be more suffering by committing suicide. That is what they don't know. They're going to suffer much more by committing suicide. Okay, so that is our takeaway for today. Committing suicide does not free you from suffering, it makes you suffer more. Uh, so that's not the end of life because you committed suicide. It's going to be horrible. By committing suicide, you will suffer terribly. Okay, but why? Because killing yourself is one of the most sinful things that you can do. And it's very, very, uh, let's say, prohibited in spiritual, uh, and it's very prohibited to commit suicide. That means to kill yourself. And if you do that, you don't end, you get caught in a very, very deep place of sin, and you'll suffer terribly. So why go there? Why even think of going there. You should never think that by committing suicide you end everything. Nothing is going to be ended. It's going to get worse. You're going to suffer even more by committing suicide. Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much. Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakti Sanivas Janami Janami. Something. I forget the last line. So it means that if one wants to live in association, he must live in the association of devotees. That's what that mantra is. Tandira Charana Seva Sevi Bhakti Sanivas. Janami Janami and so forth. Harivilas. The Krishna consciousness movement is creating many centers just to create devotees, so that by associating with the members of such a center, people will automatically become uninterested in material affairs. Although this is an ambitious proposal, this association is proving effective by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By gradually associating with the members of the Krishna consciousness movement, simply by taking prasada and taking part in chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, ordinary persons are being considerably elevated. So Muni regrets that he had bad association even in the deepest part of the water because of the bad association of the sexually engaged fish. He fell down. A secluded place is also not secure unless there is good association. That is our takeaway for today. A secluded place is not secure unless there is good association. You can't get away with anything when engaged in sinful activities. You're going to get caught. Haribo, 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 Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Bhagavananda Shri Dvaiti Dhamma Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. We're so lucky to hear this. Where else can you hear this? Nowhere else. Nowhere else.
And we have Maharaj, all the examples like this. Subhara Muni, he had 50 wives, still he was not satisfied. 5,000 kids, not satisfied.
Oh boy.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for talking and giving us Krishna. People with so many wives and children are not satisfied. You are teaching day in and day out, just teaching us how to get satisfied just with Krishna and devotees. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
Hare,
Pins up my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Okay, we will adjourn and pick it up again in 11 hours from now.